If you have noticed your legs feeling heavier at the end of the day, or they start to tighten after standing for just a short moment, do not treat that as a small thing. When the feeling in your legs changes from one evening to the next, that is often the first sign that blood flow to your legs is slowing down. The body does not make noise to warn you. It only sends these small changes, and many people overlook them until the problem has moved much further. I see this situation all the time. Some people come in because their legs have felt strange for a few weeks, and after checking, the issue usually turns out to be circulation that has been weakening for a while without them realizing it. And once blood vessels start losing their rhythm, the pace of change is usually faster than most people expect. My name is Robert Ellison. I am 60 years old. Today, I want to make clear 7 signs that your circulation is declining. Signs that show up quietly but carry real weight. Along with them are 7 nutrients that many of my patients are low in, even when they eat fairly regularly. These nutrients are not unusual, but the way they affect your blood vessels is stronger than you might think. In that list, there are 2 nutrients, number 5 and number 7, that most people never pay attention to, yet they create the most noticeable changes when added the right way. If your legs have not felt the same lately, I would like you to stay with me and see what your body has been trying to signal for a long time. When blood flow starts to slow down, the legs are where the warning shows up first. I see this pattern again and again in the clinic. When circulation drops in one area, the heaviness, the tightness, or the cold feeling shows up as the days go by. The mechanism is not complicated. Oxygen moves down more slowly, and the tissue reacts right away. What stands out is that this problem is not loud. It does not force you to stop with sharp pain. It just repeats itself, and that repetition is what tells us the vessels have lost their rhythm. When people come in saying their legs have felt off for a few weeks, the ultrasound usually shows the vessel walls are less flexible than they expected. Circulation does not steady itself just because you wait. The small changes you have felt recently are often the first steps in a progression we see very clearly in people who stand a lot, walk all day, or carry weight on their legs for long hours. And if you have started to notice these changes, that is the point where it should not be ignored anymore. This is why the 7 signs coming up matter so much. They are not a general checklist. They are the markers we use in real clinical practice to tell when circulation has started to decline. When we talk about the first sign, I want you to pay attention to the heaviness in your legs at the end of the day. I hear this description all the time, like carrying sandbags around the ankles. And most people think it is because they stood too long, walked too much, or were simply tired. But when circulation loses its pace, this is usually the earliest signal. In reality, heavy legs are not vague at all. It happens because blood in the lower legs has a harder time returning to the heart. The veins have to push that blood upward, and when the vessel walls lose flexibility or the valves weaken, blood begins to pool in the lowest point, slowing down exactly where you feel it. Less oxygen gets through, more blood stays there, and the tissue reacts with heaviness, tightness, or even a mild sting when you take a few steps. Many of my patients tell me this feeling is strongest late in the afternoon, after a day moving through stores, working in a shop, or just standing in the kitchen for hours. It does not force them to sit down, but it shows up every single day. And when something repeats like that, circulation is sending a message. The important thing is this: heavy legs are not a light sign. They are often the starting point of a pattern I have seen in many people after years of standing or moving all day long. You do not have to wait for swelling or pain before treating it seriously. The heaviness alone, when it keeps coming back, is enough to show that blood flow is no longer working the way it should. If you notice another sign, pay close attention to cramps when you walk or during the night. These are not the cramps you get from dehydration after exercise. Cramps from poor circulation have a very clear pattern. They show up when the muscle needs oxygen but is not getting enough. I see this over and over in the clinic. Some people feel their calf tighten sharply while walking, almost like it is being pulled, and some wake up because a cramp hits out of nowhere. Many think it is from sleeping in the wrong position, but when we check, the arteries in the leg are often already narrowed. When the vessel opens less, blood flow drops right away, and the muscle reacts with a sudden, hard contraction. One thing I always notice is how timed these cramps are. They show up when you pick up your pace, climb a few steps, or after a long day standing in a store or a warehouse. The muscle is simply short on oxygen, and it reacts immediately. Many people let this go on for months. A little cramp each night, a little cramp each walk. When the cramps start happening regularly, that is a sign the artery is losing its ability to open. If you have ever had to stop in the middle of a walk because your calf seized up, or you were woken out of sleep by a sharp tightening in your leg, that is not random. That is a sign your circulation has already begun to slip. There is another sign that many people overlook: the numbness, tingling, or that long needle-like feeling in the feet or calves. This is not the kind of numbness you get from sitting too long or crossing your legs. When circulation slows, the nerves are among the first to react because they depend on steady blood flow to work normally. I see this very often. People walk into the clinic saying their feet feel strange all day, or like a light current runs through them when they get out of bed in the morning. When we check, the blood flow to those nerves has usually dropped noticeably. It only has to drop a little, and the nerves respond right away with numbness or tingling. What many people miss is that this sign does not stay in one spot. If it continues, it spreads from the toes to the foot, then up the calf. And as the nerves slow down, balance starts to slip as well. I have seen many patients begin to trip or stumble simply because the numbness kept them from controlling their steps. If you feel numbness or tingling returning throughout the day, especially when standing, walking, or in the evening, it is not random. It is a sign the nerves are not getting enough blood. And once the nerves start to complain, it means circulation has been declining longer than you think. When circulation has been weak for a while, you may start to see blue or purple veins showing more clearly along the lower leg or around the ankle. Not everyone notices them, but to me, they are a very readable sign that the veins are taking on more pressure than they should. The valves in those veins are meant to push blood upward, and when blood moves slowly, those valves have to work harder, then begin to weaken. That is when the twisting, raised veins appear, not because the skin is changing, but because the veins have stretched. I see this pattern often after my patients spend long days standing in a store, working in a shop, or walking through an entire shift. The important point is that spider veins are not just cosmetic. They tell us the veins are losing strength, and if it continues, more blood will pool by the end of the day, making the heaviness and tightness rise very quickly. If you have noticed those blue or purple lines becoming more frequent, more visible, or spreading farther than before, it is not a random change. It is a sign the venous system is starting to wear down and needs attention at the right time. There is another change you can spot if you look closely. The skin on the feet or around the ankles no longer looks the way it used to. I'm talking about skin that turns pale, slightly blue, or darker as the days go by. This is a very direct reaction from the body when the tissue is not getting enough oxygen. I see this quite often in the clinic. Many people come in saying the skin just looks a little off, but when we check, the blood flow to the feet has usually dropped clearly. When blood slows down, the muscles are not supplied well, and the skin changes color almost immediately. It is not a cosmetic issue, it is a warning. What stands out is that the color change usually shows up in the areas farthest from the heart, the top of the foot, the ankle, or the outer part of the lower leg. When you spend long hours standing in a store, working in a shop, or sitting in an office, that shift in color becomes more noticeable toward the end of the day. If you look down and see the skin turning paler, more bluish, or darker in spots that were completely normal before, it is not a mild change. It is a sign the tissue has been low on oxygen for a while, and the circulatory system is no longer keeping its rhythm. Another change that is very noticeable is when the feet feel much colder than the rest of the body, even when the weather is not cold at all. I see this so often that just touching the feet tells me the arteries underneath are narrowing. When the vessel narrows, the blood reaching the feet drops sharply. Blood carries warmth. So if the artery is not opening well, the feet cool down first, and the cold goes deep, it lasts, and it does not match the surroundings. Many patients tell me they wear socks inside a warm house, or their feet feel cold the moment they touch the bed. What is easy to miss is that this cold feeling happens mainly in the feet, not the whole body. That difference matters because if the entire body's cold, it could be the weather. But when only the feet are cold, especially at the end of the day or after long hours standing, it is almost always a sign that the artery has started to harden or narrow. If you touch your feet and they are clearly colder than your lower leg or your hands, it is not a normal change. It is a sign that blood flow to the feet has dropped and it needs attention. When circulation starts to pool in the lower legs, the ankles are usually the first place to show it. I see this all the time, especially in people working long days on concrete floors, moving around a warehouse, or standing behind a counter from morning to late afternoon. By the end of the day, the ankles swell a little, and a small dent stays when you press lightly with a finger. That is not random swelling. It is blood and fluid that are not being pushed back up the way they should be. This happens when the veins lose strength, or when the heart is not pumping as efficiently. Even a small slowdown in flow sends fluid straight to the ankles. And one thing I always notice is that most people do not take this sign seriously until it shows up almost every evening. Mild swelling late in the day is a very clear sign of venous congestion. And in the clinic, we consider it one of the most important signs to judge how far circulation has declined. If you see your ankles getting fuller as the day goes on, even just a little, it means the veins are working hard to keep up. When the ankles begin to swell consistently in the afternoon, that is the point where it should not be ignored anymore. It tells you circulation is losing stability, and it needs to be checked before the pressure builds in other parts of the leg. If you notice two or more of the signs I just went through, the best thing you can do is get your circulation checked with a vascular ultrasound. The test is painless. It does not take long, and it shows very clearly how your arteries and veins are working. In the clinic, we rely on that result to decide how much intervention is needed. And one thing I have seen over many years is that catching these issues early is always far easier than letting them progress. If the signs have already started to show up, that is the time to get them checked. If the test shows that the vessel walls are weaker or circulation has already slowed, the first thing I ask my patients to take consistently is vitamin C. It is not because it is a catch-all nutrient, but because it strengthens the vessel walls by supporting collagen and reducing inflammation around the blood vessels. When that outer layer is stronger, the vessels stiffen less, and blood flow stays more stable. Vitamin C is also very easy to add to your daily meals. Many of my patients see a clear improvement just by eating oranges, apples, kiwi, or a few familiar fruits from the grocery store. If your circulation has started to slow, this is a basic nutrient, but it is extremely important for bringing back elasticity in the vessels. After strengthening the vessel walls with vitamin C, the next nutrient I want you to pay attention to is vitamin E. It protects the inner lining of the vessels from oxidative stress, which is what makes the vessels stiffen very quickly once circulation has slowed. When that lining is damaged, the vessels do not open well, and blood moves down the legs much more slowly. I see very clear improvement in patients who add vitamin E through simple things. Olive oil at dinner, or a handful of sunflower seeds they take to work. In just a few weeks, the cold feet or the heavy feeling usually eases in a noticeable way. And once that inner lining is better protected, there is another nutrient that directly affects how well the vessels open, and that is the one I want you to focus on next. After vitamin E, the nutrient that has the clearest effect on how well the vessels open is vitamin B3, or niacin. This is a nutrient that truly helps the vessels relax, not just in theory. When blood needs to move down the legs more quickly, niacin is the first thing I look at. I see this very clearly in the clinic. Once niacin goes up, the numbness, the cold feeling, or that tight calf sensation eases because the flow to the feet is no longer interrupted. Niacin also raises HDL and brings LDL down, and when those two numbers move in the right direction, plaque in the arteries forms far less often. That change has a direct impact on how fast blood can move, especially in the feet, the ankles, and the calves. Many patients see a difference after just a few weeks by eating chicken, salmon, or adding eggs to breakfast. I consider niacin something that needs to be checked early in people with slower circulation. And right after niacin, I usually look at the omega-3 level. Right after niacin, the group I would like you to pay attention to is omega-3. This is a nutrient that clearly lowers inflammation. And when that inflammation around the vessels settles down, blood flow steadies almost right away. I have seen this pattern for many years. Once omega-3 is steady, the heavy legs, the sore calves, or that slow blood ache improves much faster. Omega-3 also helps bring triglycerides down, and when that number drops, the heart does not have to strain to push blood farther. For people with slower circulation, this is a change I hope to see as early as possible. The good part is you do not need anything complicated. A simple can of tuna in the pantry is more than enough to start. Many patients bring one to work or add it to a salad at dinner, and within a few weeks, the flow to the legs settles into a better rhythm. Once the inflammation around the vessels comes down and the blood keeps a steadier pace, that is when we look at the next factor, the one that decides whether the vessels tighten without warning. When omega-3 has lowered the inflammation around the vessels and the blood moves in a steadier way, the nutrient I would like you to check right after that is magnesium. This is the mineral that keeps the vessels from tightening without warning, and it is also the reason so many people get night cramps when circulation starts to slow. I see this every week in the clinic. Just a few days without magnesium and the calves tighten right away. Many patients have no idea they are low in magnesium, and the way to bring it back up is very simple. Peanuts or sunflower seeds during the workday are often enough to keep the levels steadier. I notice this change most clearly in people who stand or walk for long hours. When magnesium is steady, the vessels hold their rhythm better, and that is when I would like you to pay attention to the nutrient that helps prevent calcification in the vessel walls, and that is vitamin K. With vitamin K, what I would like you to notice is its ability to keep calcium from settling into the vessel walls. Once calcium starts to build up there, the flexibility drops fast, and the blood flow to the legs slows in a very real way. Vitamin K helps regulate that process, and it keeps the clotting system working in a steady rhythm. I often see good results from very simple changes. Adding spinach or romaine to dinner a few times a week makes a clear difference when people come back for follow-up. If you are taking warfarin, this is a group that has to be watched closely. For those who are not on blood thinners, vitamin K is an important step to keep the vessel wall soft, flexible, and able to respond the right way when you stand, walk, or climb a set of stairs. When vitamin K helps keep the vessel walls flexible, the next thing I would like you to look at is cocoa. This is a nutrient many people overlook, yet it affects how the heart makes energy to push blood down to the legs. I see this all the time, especially in people taking statins who feel tired, have muscle aches, or notice a light shortness of breath. Most of them are low in CoQ10 without realizing it. When CoQ10 drops, the heart has to work harder to keep a steady pump, especially when you stand for long periods, walk a lot, or climb a set of stairs. With steady CoQ10, the muscle pain, the heaviness in the legs, and that lingering fatigue often settle down quickly. I notice this change most clearly in people who take statins every day. Once CoQ10 reaches a stable level, the heart holds its rhythm better, and you can feel the difference in the feet and the ankles. When CoQ10 helps the heart keep a steadier pump, the next step is to maintain a few habits that keep blood moving down to the legs through the day. I see this most clearly in people who make these small changes daily. Their feet warm up, their calves feel less tight, and the mild swelling at the end of the day settles down. And these habits are not complicated. You only need to stick with a few simple things, and circulation responds quickly. Add a handful of spinach or romaine to any meal. No measuring, just place it on the plate. Eat tuna or grilled chicken 3 to 4 times a week to keep omega-3 and niacin at steady levels. Use olive oil instead of frying oil in the kitchen. This is the change I see make a difference the earliest. Snack on peanuts or sunflower seeds, especially when you work a long shift. Walk for 10 to 15 minutes after dinner. That alone helps blood reach the legs much more easily. If you are taking statins, it is a good idea to talk with your doctor about CoQ10. This group often needs extra support. Fresh fruit like oranges, apples, or bananas can take the place of packaged sweets and help keep vitamin C steady. These are small changes, but they create real results, especially in people who stand all day, walk all day, or feel cold in their feet by evening. When the daily habits start to settle in and circulation responds the right way, this is the moment I would like you to step back and look at the whole picture, so you know exactly what you are watching and why it matters. The 7 signs that circulation is slowing include cold feet, long-lasting tingling, heaviness in the calves when you stand, mild swelling at the end of the day, pale or dry skin on the legs, slow recovery after walking, and that slow blood ache around the ankles. And along with them are the 7 nutrients we have talked about throughout this video. Vitamin E for the vessel walls, niacin for opening the vessels, omega-3 to lower inflammation, magnesium to prevent sudden tightening, vitamin K to slow calcification, CoQ10 to support the heart's pump, and vitamin C to keep the inner lining steady. When these areas start moving in the right direction, most people notice 3 changes: better energy through the day, lighter legs when they move, and a heart that keeps a steady rhythm even when they have to stand or walk for long periods. When circulation starts to improve and you begin to feel the changes in your legs and in your heartbeat, I would like you to pay attention to your body each day. The small signals often show up earlier than you think. And if this video has helped you understand your circulation more clearly, it is a good idea to pass it along to a family member or a friend who may be dealing with the same issues. These things may seem small, but I see them make a real difference in the clinic. As you finish watching, leave your age in the comments. I want to know who I am supporting. And if you would like me to continue making videos about circulation, heart health, and staying steady in these later years, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe.